Welcome to Tie Chats, hosted by Van Learning. These conversations are centered on the trends in education shaping today and tomorrow. Leading the conversation is our host, Dr. Bryce Johnson. Bryce recently served as Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction for the Blue Springs School District. With 28 years in education, he has served as a teacher, assistant principal, principal at both elementary and middle schools, and director of technology, and now joins the Van Learning team. Bryce, what trends in education are we focusing on today?
Super excited about today's chat. We've got Dr. Jasmine Briedwell joining us today to visit a little bit about some trends in education. And our topics today are really topics that I think everybody's swirling with, in particularly the teaching and learning aspects of districts and schools. And so, Dr. Briedwell, once again, thanks for being here. Dr. Briedwell serves as Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services in her current role. So let's kind of get started. And Dr. Briedwell, if you just kind of share a little bit about the specifics of your role and maybe a little bit about your district, that'd be great.
Well, hi, thanks for having me today. Um, I am the Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services in Park Hill School District. That's a suburban school district in Kansas City, Missouri. And so we have about a little over 11,000 students and serve Kansas City, Parkville, Riverside, different municipalities around our area. And so academic services in our district is comprised of special education, elementary and secondary education, curriculum and PD assessment, intervention services, English language services, federal programs. Those are the departments that we work together. Also, our educational programs, internships, future ready assets, and those areas.
So there's a lot. There is a
Yes.
lot
Yes.
that you lead and the team that you coordinate leads and is responsible in helping create systems and processes to make all those things successful in your district. So again, thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time today. The topics that we'd like to kind of bring some conversation around today are this idea of strategic planning and district planning, and then how that really connects to leadership development, and then ultimately professional development and some of the models and things and approaches that you found successful with professional development, design, things of that nature. So let's just jump in a little bit and start with the planning process and strategic planning process. So can you share a little bit about that approach?
Strategic planning, we're very passionate about. We have a CSIP team, as we call it, Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, so that we're aligning with the MSIP, Missouri School Improvement Plan. And so that team meets throughout the school year, and it is made up of staff, students, parents. And by students, we're getting that student feedback and what they're looking for. Um, we are getting all different departments, all different dimensions of diversity on that team. Administrators from cross departments are on that team, and they will help develop as we look out for the next 5 years. What are our goals? What are those objectives that we need to achieve that goal, and breaking that down into some strategies. Then, once we get into more department level and school level for our BSIP, our Building School Improvement Plan, we start looking at those action steps that we're going to take so that we're all aligned. One thing that I love about Park Hill is we will talk about we are not um, a system of schools, we are a school system. So if it is good enough for this school, then it is good enough for this school. And that's a big part of our equity pieces, that we're all working towards the same goals and the same initiatives.
Can you talk a little bit about, one of the things that in my experience, has been kind of that challenge or thing to be mindful around with strategic planning was this whole idea of how we take parts of this plan that is kind of our aspiration, like where we want to be, what do we want to become, and then we turn that somehow we need to turn that into, real actionable items. At some point somebody's got to do something, right? And so
Right.
how do you kind of work that in your space with this idea of the strategic intent behind it, and then down into, okay, who's going to do what, and how do we actually start with a plan?
Having the community, the parent piece and what they're looking for is a great reminder about, in my mind, I know we are under curriculum review for ELA, and these are the new state regulations, and these are the state approved resources. And so I'm down here, but then in those meetings when you're with the community and they're saying, oh, and by the way, these things are really important to me. I want to make sure my kid feels like they belong when they go to school. And, they really, I think having that community aspect helps remind me that we have all of these pieces about culture and belonging and that feeling of safety from our community. And it's not just about the next ELA rollout. And then thinking about when we can have that aspiration, and we talk about this with curriculum resource adoption. You could have the most perfect and beautiful resource. If we're not able to implement it and implement it well, you're not going to get the efficacy rate and the effectiveness that you're looking for, versus maybe one that isn't as beautiful and perfect, but people know how to implement that and they will do that really well. So when we're designing the strategies or the initiatives that we're looking for, we want to make sure we're hitting that zone. And in the classroom, we call this the zone of proximal development, where what's not a stretch, what's not too easy, but really what's going to challenge us to keep getting better. Continuous improvement is one of our values. So we want to keep getting better, but we want to make sure that's something we're able to do and do well.
Do you have an approach that you all use there in Park Hill that's kind of that filter, if you will, or of which of the initiatives and the topics that become priority and which of them are kind of like, hey, that's kind of a good idea and that, that'd be a good thing, but it just didn't make it to the top of our list. Like, how do you guys go about doing that?
For us, we have that goal of a future ready student. And then the three objectives we selected, I'm very proud of because I think they're evergreen. They don't go away. And so we're looking at academics. We are a school system. So what are those academic improvements? Culture. So culture for students and staff and the community. So when they're walking in your schools, they feel like they belong there. And then our systems. At the high level, systems for us is that finance, HR, operations, our facilities, those pieces. How are those systems functioning to serve our schools? So we have a great through line of what's happening at district level, what's happening at the schools, and how is that reaching our students and parents. There also, I've seen in other places where someone somewhere is designing that strategic plan. And something that's really important to us is if you're doing it alone, you're doing it wrong. It has to be with lots of focus groups and input, and then you design it and have that common language. And when you have that common language, you can really have these impactful conversations about what's important and how do we maybe need to change our thinking. And so once we get the CSIP to land on these large central themes, then departments start meeting in focus groups, pulling principals, pulling teachers, giving feedback about, okay, so we have the objective of academics. This is our larger goal. Here are some of our measures. What do we believe will get us there? And by doing that process, we get that curated sense of these are the initiatives we want to work towards and what can have that larger impact. So to me, it's like a priority standard.
Mhm.
What are the things that serve you for multiple years beyond this third grade class? And so, what are those initiatives that serve academics, behavior, culture? They put systems in place for looking at data. If we can do those things well, the rest can follow. And we are able to teach well, design instruction the best way we can, and create a positive learning environment.
Like, what are some systems and some things you've implemented to develop leaders so they can understand the strategic plan
Mhm.
and can effectively, be that leader in the building level or other district level roles?
Building leadership is so crucial and unlike any other type of leadership in any other organization. And so the training is absolutely crucial because they have touch points with every single group of our school community. Um, One thing we do in Park Hill, we have aspiring leadership cohort. So that's for our current teachers that are aspiring to become assistant principals or principals. For our principals, we have regular ongoing PD throughout the school year. Then at the next level, we have an aspiring district leadership cohort. So these are for our current principals that aspire to become directors and assistant superintendents. And so we have a whole process for that where they learn about each department. They essentially get project time in each department and work with that director. But through that process, it's still training. How are we looking at data? How are we looking at our comparison groups? What are our levels and trends? What are our goals we're shooting for? So that even if you're a first year principal, you're getting these rich conversations about data and my action plan as a principal and that support that I might need, no matter where you are on that journey. Maybe you've been doing this for 20 years and now we're having this really reflective conversation together where we can brainstorm, ups, share experiences, and maybe even say we need to go do some work and research on how we can support this.
We've got these plans developed. We've coached leadership along the way. Now it's time, okay, where the rubber meets the road in the classrooms. I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit around just some general, guidance on positive approaches that you've experienced related to delivering professional development to teachers and classrooms, and just share a little bit about your philosophy and your approach at that level.
Well, I'm a former instructional coach, so I should have told you I was a teacher, instructional coach, assistant principal, and principal before coming to at the district office level. And so I'm very passionate about professional development and how it's executed. So when we're thinking about what is the initiative, what are the essential pieces that we want teachers to be able to know and to do? So we're looking at both of those components and how long will that take? Is that going to take a year? Is it going to take 2 years? So what are the chunks that we are going to take that in? Sometimes we just overwhelm people with the ideal right up front. And for some people, that's completely overwhelming and they don't want to even approach it. So how do we chunk this out into manageable pieces that people feel like they can take on and learn, and we become better over time? And we consistently do that so that no matter what building you're in, you are seeing that happen. So after we kind of work with teams, again, focus groups on what is this going to look like, working with our instructional coaches, working with curriculum directors, thinking about how is that delivered. And there should be another through line on PD where we have whole group. So, what is the whole school getting? Maybe even the whole district. We have that small group piece. So maybe that's by grade level or department. So what are they doing, talking about, receiving in that group? And then individual. So through instructional coaches or we have learning facilitators at our secondary level, what is that individual support for someone so that we can connect these? And then we revisit over time. How do we keep revisiting this? And then how do we have the accountability through walkthroughs, through collaborative walkthroughs? Maybe we're documenting that in some way so that we can see the implementation of the initiative that we've planned out through PD.
What are some kind of just like delivery models that you've had some success with? You mentioned embedded.
I think one of the things that's probably most important is what are we saying no to, even though it's a great idea? And then focused on these are the things, these are the goals we set for ourselves. How are we going to make sure that happens? Do we have enough dedicated subs for that? It might also be saying no to how often we'd love to have it. Maybe I would want to do that every month, but I can't. Teachers don't want to be out every month. We don't have enough subs for that. So, what is possible? Let's start there. And then again, the individual coaching, or just, maybe 2 or 3 teachers on a coaching cycle to really work on that professional development tailored to what their needs are. Perhaps we have a whole grade level and they're all new. we can tailor whatever this initiative you learned about on the full day of PD down to your grade level or department that you work in and design that for you.
I just want to thank you again, Dr. Bridewell, for joining the chat today. I think you shared lots of great insights that anyone who's thinking about strategic planning or thinking about leadership development or PD plan development, your insights are super valuable. And hopefully that will be beneficial to those that maybe find themselves in those circumstances, thinking about what those areas can look like within their space. So again, thanks for taking the time to join us today. I also want to thank Van Learning for hosting our collaboration and making this conversation possible. So have a great day and appreciate you being on the chat.
Thank you.